4 to 4 for floating, 4 to 4 for load, 4 to 4 for stability, 4 to 4, and done.
And water started leaking and it sunk.
If we're a community school, we're a school for all of the children who live in the community, whether you're, quote, regular or whether you have diverse learning needs. And how do you say that some kids can come to the community school and others can't? I think we're moving to a more strength-based approach where we look at diversity as a strength and something to be proud of. When you have classes of diverse learners, and every class in Edmonton, in Alberta, North America is comprised of diverse learners these days, we need to really focus on instruction and high quality instruction for every kid, and universal design gives us a way of doing that I think is improving instruction across the board.
But I just found cups and it might work exactly the same.
When I came here 4 years ago, I think West Glen was in the same place that most of our district schools were, in that if kids were struggling or had challenges, we had a tendency to assess them, code them, and send them off to district center programs where we believed their needs would be better met, or that they were better equipped to teach kids with special education needs.
Things that don't seem to help it develop.
We had a group of parents who were very committed to keeping their kids in the community school, and we began our journey into inclusion.
More independent, yeah. And I just like to help her along if I can. Yeah.
We always say community school is our alternative program. Parents like the idea of the community school. They wanted their kids to be able to walk to school, to have play dates with kids who lived in the neighborhood, and to have that sense of community where when you're walking down the street, you're out in the playground, you're at the grocery store, you see people that you know. Parents here are also very involved in the school, and that's also helped to develop that sense of community.
We came to West Glen halfway through kindergarten and met with Mrs. Lundell and explained the situation. At that point in time, Cameron was going through a tremendous amount of testing. He hadn't been diagnosed, but we knew a diagnosis was forthcoming. She had suggested to us that we transfer him in the middle of kindergarten so that they have some opportunity to see him, to see what sort of supports he needed to have put in place, and set him up for success basically for grade 1.
Children with complex needs have to have specialized supports. Sometimes that might look like EA support, sometimes it might be specialized equipment or technology. At West Glen, we've really focused and really emphasized universal supports for all children.
Because of the nature of his learning, the style of his learning, he's a strong visual learner, we should start pictorially.
So we look at how can we remove barriers for kids who are in the margins, or for kids who might struggle with reading, with writing, with socializing, with attention, and provide supports that will enable all children to learn.
Demonstrate and explain the meaning of equality and inequality concretely and pictorially.
It really is the beginning of a journey. Teachers have different levels of skill, of openness, varying levels of comfort with technology, and so we're working together as a staff to implement a universal design for learning approach across classrooms. And it does look different in different classrooms at this point in time.
And do the second.
Fire crackled in John Fleming's house.
We decided to start in one classroom, and that was how we began our journey with Universal Design for Learning. Teachers start to see kids who have struggled in the past kids for whom reading or writing have been tremendous barriers, making huge gains, developing confidence, becoming independent learners.
Seeing kids that maybe couldn't write before, all of a sudden writing things that they've never ever done before. It's amazing to see that kind of thing, to see the growth, and to see the smiles on their faces, to see their the excitement of, you know, I've written 2 or 3 paragraphs.
So you're putting on some graphics, are you? Or what?
What started to happen is there was a spillover effect into other classrooms, and other teachers started to say, what's going on in that classroom? I would like to learn more about this approach. I'd like to learn more about how technology can support all kids in their learning. And beginning this year, we have looked at whole school professional learning and beginning to implement a universal design for learning approach across all classrooms.
When I first started my career, it was stand and deliver, and now we're working with computers and kids have hands-on, and it's a lot more interesting for the kids, that's for sure. They're far more involved in their learning. We're more involved with the kids. It wasn't a quick change, it was an evolving kind of change. Kids have this innate ability. Often they can learn on their own. They're learning from each other. At our school, we've had pairings with the grade 2s and the grade 4s. Sometimes the grade 4s are learning from the grade 2s. The interesting part about that is that the computers are the vehicle for all of these guys learning together. They become the experts in our class, and then they teach 3 or 4 other students. Well, it's empowered me, it's empowered the children, and I think it's leveled the playing field to some degree.
Technology is an excellent leveler. One of the examples in here is one of the programs that you can highlight text from any website or any program and it'll read it to you. And so it just opens up a whole new world, especially in Division 1 with the younger students who can understand language if it's spoken to them or read to them. So in science and social studies, they can research concepts that are far beyond their reading level. So even students who have coding can engage in what they're interested in, even though there's not print materials made for them.
If they're a bird of prey, does that mean that they say their prayers?
And I really believe that in this day and age, in the 21st century, with the access that we have to technology, that a reading disability should not be a barrier to being able to be in a regular class, to going to university, to being able to get a great job and function in the world.
People always think of UDL as computer and high tech, but really a lot of it's low tech because they need to learn how to use these things and decide which one works for them. So it takes us a long time to decide which ones are doing, but if you come in and watch a math class, you will see some children with Rec and Rec, some children counting in the number line on their desk, and some children using their fingers to figure out the answers to questions. And so you have to teach them all of these different techniques that you have, or all of these different strategies of how to do things, and then they choose the ones that work best for them. Often with children, what you're doing is asking them, how did you learn that? How did you figure that out? Because you want them to understand who they are as learners. You want them to know what strategies or what things that you have available they need to use in order to be the best that they can be.
In terms of inclusive practices, Universal Design for Learning ensures that the learning environment is there for all students. So regardless of what abilities or disabilities are coming in with, whether that's physical, psychological, emotional, the classroom environment is set up so that all children are welcomed and embraced. And one of the things that I love about UDL is that every child has access to the materials, whether they have a disability or whether they don't. Those children that do have disabilities or barriers or learning difficulties feel honored in the classroom. They're not singled out, they're not pointed out, they look like everybody else because everybody has access to every tool. So whether you choose to use the tool or not is based on your preferences and your choices, not based on whether or not you're coded or not coded or different or normal. Every child in here is a learner, and they come in with certain preferences or certain strengths and certain difficulties or barriers. And it doesn't matter what their background is, they can find those tools that will help them succeed.
You're here, just a minute.
To meet the needs of all of our diverse learners, we have a lot of tools and strategies in place throughout the classroom, some that people might notice, some that are subtle. Large amount of movement to stay focused. The fidgets are meant to maintain focus during teacher-directed activities. So some students need a wiggle cushion, a bungee cord that they can hook their feet in and provide some gross motor support. We call it on the go. So from the FM to having a dot cam to show anything live up on the smartboard, having a wireless keyboard where students can take it to their desk and type and it'll show up for their classmates to see, from the visual schedule to buckets with manipulatives, extra supplies for that student who will have a panic attack when they can't find their pencil. All of these supports are in place in the classroom, and the students know how to find what they need to meet their needs, and the teachers have access to multiple means to represent what they're trying to teach their students, so that we're removing those barriers to learning and all children are able to learn and express what they know. This is a way for the students to prioritize the activities that they have to turn in, so they know to do the first activity. They can come, they can check their name to see if they're done. Once they finish the activity, they put their name in, they turn their page in, and they can move down and check if they're done the next. There's a spot for early finishers that has the activities that are acceptable that they can do, that they can work on, and they can select from this list, so they've got choice in their engagement. So there's a teacher sequence of what's expected, and then there's an amount of student choice as well. So if you need a walking break in the hallway, feel free to grab the blue or the red bone, put it on your place marker, okay? So you can still take your walking breaks and washroom breaks, water breaks. And we were gonna bring our headphones, because often in here, it gets really loud, especially kids who are working by the testing station. If it's too loud for you, grab your red headphones off your hook. You can wear them around your neck, or you can wear them on your ears. So you can take them on and off as needed. If I give the bump, 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 and somebody has their headphones on and their head down, tap them on the shoulder.
The first thing that we need to do when we're working with Universal Design for Learning is identify some of the learner profiles and barriers that students have.
I found with UDL planning, at the beginning of the year, it's slightly more front-loaded because you need to think of your strategies and plans. So the first few weeks of the year can be a little bit more hectic.
Even just having him draw the blocks would be useful, I think. It's
Thumbs up if you've done this step. Awesome. Filed it in your boat building book. Step 2, what's the first thing you're going to do once you built your boat? Does it float?
Why are you building these boats?
Well, it's just an experiment and stuff.
And what's an experiment?
Where you do stuff and you see if it works or if it floats or sinks and if it's stable.
So do you think yours is going to be stable?
Yeah, I hope so.
But once those pieces are put in place, you have your learner profile, you know your students, you have your physical setup, and the students know where things are. The lesson planning from there flows so quickly because you do it during the lessons with the kids, based on where the lessons are going, based on their questions, based on their interests. So a lot of my lesson planning becomes with the students, and then a quick amount at the end of the day just to check in where they're at or look at some of their samples and make sure we're heading in the right direction. But I find a lot of my planning becomes natural, authentic learning, inquiry-based, in front of the students together. But really the lesson evolves with the students' engagement. So it actually takes the pre-planning out of the lessons and puts it into the hands of the kids during the learning.
I work to support wellness in the students, in their parents, and in staff. It's helping staff understand that they can manage their own emotions by using self-taught. And so when they've got difficult kids in their classrooms, it doesn't have to end up that they're frustrated and angry about it. They can manage that in a different way. It helps with burnout and compassion fatigue. Brains can only learn if they're in a state of calm attention. That's the only time brains can learn. Breathe only as fast as the breathing ball tells you. So in order for kids to be involved in a learning environment, they have to be able to calm their own brain. Blow out all the candles. that's sometimes what we call engagement. They have to be able to get their body ready and their mind ready to be able to learn and then to be able to attend to the teacher. So sometimes I think about emotional regulation as being the foundation or one of the foundations for UDL.
Cameron's a little boy in grade 1. He came to us partway through kindergarten and he has multiple diagnoses, including Tourette's disorder. We have lots of supports in place for Cameron so that he can be successful in a regular grade 1 classroom. There are universal supports school-wide, including, for example, the emotional self-regulation work, and there are more targeted and specialized supports provided to Cameron in the classroom.
If you think you know what the feeling is, put your hand up silently.
Some people don't understand it. Sometimes I need to itch all over. Sometimes even on my body. Even I do this sometimes. Yes. It's so hard to stop it.
He also has auditory issues, like sensory issues, so if things don't feel right to him, he'll often sit on his feet because his chair is cold. So if we put a cloth over his chair, then he can sit properly to read and write.
Like, if it kind of itched, when you itch the first one, it gets another one in your body. And I can't really stop it all the time. Sometimes this, yeah, it's very hard to stop it. Ugh.
Cameron does not have any learning issues, so we're lucky on that level because Cameron is very bright, very engaged student. It's not hard to engage him in what you're doing. He really likes to learn, and so that part of it is easy. A lot of his problems have really diminished as the year has gone on, and the children have learned too. Like, one of the first things we did was work on how do you ignore the ticking. Like, how do you ignore those noises? Because the rest of the class really has to learn to ignore them and not start doing the same thing. Because in grade 1, someone makes a noise, oh, that's a cool noise, and you get 20 of them. So teaching the children to ignore that noise and not copy it. So we spent quite a lot of time early in the year setting that up so that the children know that it's not acceptable for them and that he can't help it. If I didn't have Cameron, we would still work on ignoring at the beginning of the year. Work on ignoring the person behind you who sings under their breath. Because it takes a while for children to stop doing those kinds of things. Because they've been on holidays all summer, they can sing and dance whenever they feel like it. Ignore the person who is trying to talk to you. Give them the hand, tell them you can't talk right now, you're busy. You know, give them signals that they know. And I use sign languages with the kids, so if somebody's doing something, they can tell them to stop without having to say anything. And I teach them, you know, please stop if they're having trouble getting the person to stop. And I try and teach them signs that they can use so that they don't have to disrupt each other.
Sometimes I knock down chairs. Chairs are knocked down, other big kids or people. And it's very hard for me to stop.
Coming in at the beginning of the year, he was very focused on things. So if he saw a ball rolling across the gym, he got focused on the ball and he mowed down anyone who was in his way. So we had to take him slowly, a few kids at a time, into the gym and teach him how to watch out for the children so that he wasn't running into them. And now he goes into the gym and he rarely bumps into, you know, he's no different than any other one of the kids that occasionally would bump into something. And it's really important that you do things in small steps to get him going.
Sometimes I get a little bit of action or a yell out or a call out, and it will distract other people. It's good that I have quiet space.
What does that mean?
That means where I rest for a little bit.
I am very fortunate. I have an awesome aide who notices things. If between us we notice most of the things that are going on with him, and it really helps. And she has been very good about cueing him when she sees him starting to get anxious or starting to what we call ramping up, or he calls it a brainstorm. And as the year has gone, it changes. So the tics don't stay the same all the time. And I always feel like every day we're going to see we'll see what happens. Today we had to tie his eraser to his desk because he couldn't keep it on his desk. So it was easier to tie it on his desk than to sort of, it's better for him if we just tie it there where he can always find it, and if it flops off, it's easy to get back.
I think the most important thing with any child that has extra needs is communication. And communication in a style that works for that particular family. And we're the experts in our children. They're the experts in education, and the two have to come together and work together.
Does he have friends?
No close friends. We've never had a play date, which is really hard, really hard. I'm hoping that's going to change. I think one of the problems is they don't have very good social skills, a lot of children with TS. And that's something they're working on in the school. Actually, they're working on it with all children. I can't speak highly enough for West Glen. To be honest, I don't know what we'd have done if we'd have stayed where we were. West Glen's given us the support that we've needed. It's given Cameron the support we've needed. And as a family, we've just grown. Where we are today compared to where we were a year ago is like night and day.
And when I grow up, I'm going to be an archaeologist, and I'm going to study rocks because I'm very smart. I actually started studying rocks already.
I think that most teachers, with enough support and professional learning, can teach in an inclusive setting.
To learn more about what Edmonton Public Schools is doing to support inclusion, visit us online at epsb.ca/inclusive learning.